finance and operations. She'll kind of help link the money with the facilities. We have Clint Pruitt, who's our director of facilities, and so he'll be talking to you a lot about the buildings and the construction. And then we have Jamie Eubanks, who is our principal here at Dripping Springs Elementary, and so she'll be able to talk to you about the campus. So glad to have you all here. I'm going to turn it over to this team.
All right, good morning, everybody. We were supposed to do this in January, and Mother Nature had other plans, so we were fortunate to find a date on the calendar and reschedule. So we are going to talk about facilities in the district today and the current bond program. So here's our agenda. A lot about facility management, district bonds, so not only the current bond program, but a snippet of historical bonds in the district. And then following the presentation, we'll actually take a tour of the campus, focusing on the items that are being updated or renovated in the bond program. So this is a district map. If you've not seen a map of the district, we are 198 square miles. And so the peak, this is very difficult to see, I'm sure, but the peak signifies either where we own land or where we have campuses. So this first pink box is the Darden Hill property where Cypress Springs Elementary is and where we're designing high school number 2 to be. Then up here you have Sycamore Springs Middle and Elementary Campus, Rooster Springs. So this is the east side of the district. You'll notice to the north we border with the Travis County line, and then it makes a crazy little jut up out there. I'm sure there's history there as to why it doesn't go straight. And then this center is blown up here, the center of Dripping Springs, where we're at today, up here at Dripping Springs Elementary. Then the old Walnut Springs and the old administration building, the high school complex, the middle school and new Walnut area, and then our transportation facility. So you can see we go west pretty far, and then to the south, so we're bordered by Lake Travis, Austin ISD, Hayes, Blanco, and Johnson City. So a snapshot of our facilities, starting with the elementary campuses. You'll notice that most of the elementaries are around 109,000 square feet. Sycamore Springs is a little bit larger because they have those open pod collaboration areas. Cypress and the new Walnut have those as well, but they're more compact in their space. Dripping Springs Elementary is the only one that has a 900 student capacity. The other elementaries are at 850, and that is what we're designing Elementary 6 for. And then you can see the dates. So this campus was built in 1986 and is going to have some major renovations happening this summer. So this is one of our oldest facilities. The next oldest is Dripping Springs Middle School. If you don't know, that was originally built as the high school, and it was converted to the middle school in 09-10. And so it too is slated for major renovations starting this summer. Sycamore Springs Middle School opened and built in 2017, just as the elementary. It was built for 850 with the intention to expand that campus, and so that is finally happening, and that construction is underway as we speak. Then we have the high school, the current high school, built in 1995, originally as a middle school. So the middle school, the original middle school and high school swapped, and so that's why that facility is to the full capacity. It was originally built for middle school, so some of the hallways are not as wide as you would find in a high school. Then we have the Center for Learning and Leadership, which is also known as our administration building. That was originally Walnut Springs Elementary School, and I think I learned Friday that that was a junior high, an intermediate campus at one time. I did not know that. Then we have a transportation facility. It was renovated as part of the 18 bond program, expanded, and then we have the old administration built in 1948 that is currently vacant, and we don't really have any plans for that facility. So that is a snapshot of all of the facilities in the district today. We also have lots of fields, so our fields are used all the time. If we're not using it for a campus event, they are rented by various entities. And so you can see lots of tracks and turf fields, and then when those are slated to be replaced. So a full turf field lasts about, what, 10 years? 8 to 10 years, and so we might on baseball, softball, of course, you're going to have high traffic areas, pitcher's mound, other areas, and so those are replaced or repaired more frequently, but the full replacement for those two, baseball and softball, which were built in 2017, about 2027 will be needing to replace those turf fields. Soccer and track at the high school, 2019, those are slated for about 5 years out, and then the football turf, you can see approximately 5 years, 2019, we're right there.
Well, yeah, and I should clarify, that's those approximate 5 years, that's 5 years from now. So we're basically halfway through the life cycle on the high school stadium field and what we call the track field, or what's up there is the soccer turf field. The baseball and softball, you have those high traffic areas that Elaine mentioned, around home plate, the pitcher's mound. Those we have to replace and repair every few years. But baseball, softball fields are different than a football field because it's so spread out that the turf doesn't get the same amount of wear and tear. So those fields should last us approximately another 10 years from now for the field as a whole, but we'll continue to have to maintain those high traffic areas.
Sorry, can we ask questions?
Yes.
So the strategy of turf versus grass, for both cost perspective, but also minimizing injury perspective. So for the cost perspective, is turf actually cheaper than maintaining a grass field?
It's for annual operating, yes, it's definitely cheaper.
What about over a 10-year period where there's a replacement?
Over a 10-year period, the payback is roughly equal. The annual maintenance on a turf field is basically the high traffic areas, making sure that you're sweeping and keeping the infield distributed properly. And then the challenge with grass fields is, number one, the amount of use that our fields get. You can't water them enough to keep the grass alive because they're getting used, 250 days out of the year in a lot of cases. And the water restrictions that we live through and will continue to go through, I think, for the foreseeable future, we're not even really allowed to water the field. And so we just can't, they end up getting, if you go around to some of the, even some of the elementary campuses that have grass adjacent to some of the playgrounds, it ends up just getting deep to dirt. We can't keep grass growing, unfortunately. So it helps us from an injury standpoint. It allows us to keep those.
I mean, that's not the research is changing on that.
Well, if you're comparing to the hard dirt
I
that we
understand the
saw
water
this
part.
summer.
Yeah.
So you have some
from
city
the water,
fields that weren't usable this summer because they couldn't water them. So we would have been in the same shape if it had not been turf.
Yeah, no, the water part makes sense, that we can't do that.
Yeah. So that ends up just being kind of a hard man. So from an injury standpoint, like we can't like if we're a college campus or whatever, or
That makes sense.
where you can maintain that nice thick grass turf and water it 5 days a week. There's a lot of debate over whether grass is safer than turf. But the other thing we do is we test these turf fields. We do what they call GMAX testing on an annual basis to make sure that they're maintaining that kind of cushion effect.
Then we get asked a lot, what land does the district own? And so we have about 155 acres at Darden Hill. Again, that's where Cypress Springs Elementary is and the planned site for high school number 2. We have 24 acres at East Mount Gator Road, which was on the map, and it was so little that I forgot to highlight it.
The south one?
South, yes, south of 12. And Headwaters, about 65 acres where Elementary 6 is going to be constructed and a possible site for a future middle school. And then we have 9 acres where the former administration building is sitting on, and no determination of what to do with that until that building is torn down. So, turn it over to you for a minute
All right.
about your department.
All right. So the facilities and construction is made up of kind of these key areas: our custodial, our maintenance staff, grounds. Our construction, which is the construction staff is really myself and one project manager, and then we have an assistant director and an administrative assistant. And so, kind of highlight custodial there. We've got those are total FTEs as if we're fully staffed. There was a real brief period in time, kind of at the beginning of COVID, where I think we were really close to being fully staffed. But in my 6.5 years, we've being in the district, we've historically always been really challenged to achieve full staffing at custodial, and that's been very evident over the last couple of years. We're currently about 40% short from a staffing perspective. About 30 FTE, about 30 of those 70 plus FTEs have been vacant, and we were maintaining kind of in that 18 to 20 range for a year or so, and then it just continued to increase to where we were at around 30 vacancies. And so what we are doing actually starting this month is we have contracted with an outside company to come in and clean 4 of our campuses. So they'll be cleaning both the Sycamore, so Sycamore Elementary, Sycamore Springs Middle School, Rooster Springs, and Cypress Springs. So kind of our campuses on the eastern side of the district. That contractor will be coming in actually starting over spring break. What that allows us to do is, and that's about, if we were fully staffed at those 4 campuses, that's about 25 FTEs. We had about 15 current staff at those 4 campuses, so by bringing on the contractor and having them clean those campuses, we're moving those existing staff over to all of these campuses on this side of the district to allow us to get very close to fully staffed on this side. So that will allow us, and the contractor is already with their hiring program, is getting close to being fully staffed for what they need at those campuses. So it'll allow us as a whole, as a district, to be much more closely fully staffed at custodial, which enables us to just ensure that we're keeping the buildings as clean as possible. Some of the same challenges with maintenance. Right now we're about 6 to 7 staff short in the maintenance department, and then a couple, we're mostly fully staffed in grounds. I think we have like 2 vacancies there. And so just to give you an idea of the makeup of the department.
Clint, I have a question. So with the contracting, I was kind of thinking that it would be like a night crew that's contracting, but we're moving. I had kind of heard rumblings at Rooster that all those employees, so they're all moving,
Right.
New contract team, day and night shift.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then, what's our plan for maintenance over the summer? Just Rooster got so high with all of the grass by the road, and are we
Yeah,
gonna mow over summer?
Yes.
Do we have
Yeah,
people?
we will definitely.
I have been asked, I was
Yeah.
asked last year as PTA president
Right.
to go and mow. Sometimes I put my foot down to things.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
No, I assure you that they'll stay on top of that. Yeah. And then just a little more information in terms of facility management. We do something we take very seriously and put a lot of attention to is outside of payroll, which if you've sat through enough of these, you've probably heard that 80+% of the district's budget is payroll. The next biggest line item besides payroll in our budget is our utilities, and so we work really hard to be as efficient as we can be. Our annual total utility costs are in the $1.7 to $1.8 million range. And just to give you a perspective of our annual electrical consumption is 11.7 million kilowatt hours. I think I used like 2,000 at my house last month. So it's I think we did a comparison of the number of 2,500 square foot homes to make up the district, and it's a couple of thousand, right? So it's a small city. When you think about the amount of square footage and what we're trying to manage in terms of our utility consumption. And so a lot of things that we do is, we set back the buildings at night, so we're not running things 24/7. So we set back buildings at night and on the weekends. We have a shutdown program over the holidays. We try and really minimize what we do in the summer, consolidate programs so that we can control our energy costs as much as possible. And so all those efforts add up to an estimated savings of $300,000 to $350,000 a year. And just kind of go along with that, there are a lot of companies out there that will approach school districts and come in and say, hey, we can save you a lot of money, we can save you this. The first thing they want to do is look at your, like 12 months of electrical bills. And so we've had a couple of companies come in over the last 6 months or so, and after they do an initial review of our electrical bills, they're like, yeah, there's really not a whole lot we think we can do for you. So it gives us the peace of mind that we are doing.
The 2 campuses that they always say they can do something for, this campus and DSMS, which we're doing renovations to, and so they're like, well, when you upgrade those equipment and the lighting, then that's gonna take care of it. And so I'm appreciative that they're honest enough to say we can't do anything for you, and it's also a good validation from an outside company that wants to make money off us that we can't.
Do those companies look at like solar panels or anything like that, or?
These are mainly wanting to do controls and updates to equipment.
Like kind of like a Nest or something like where it would be optimal.
Or they'll come in and, yeah, they want to come in and look at like your HVAC and how you control your, because most of it's tied to HVAC and electrical. Like 70% of our utility usage is electrical, and so they want to come in and kind of audit what you're doing. But they'll have a baseline of, well, if you're using this much per square foot or more, we know there's some meat on the bone. If it's that or less, there's really not. Something else that we do is facility assessments, and that kind of rolls into like long-range planning and this building and Dripping Springs Middle School, where we're doing the major renovations starting this summer. Is the facility assessments that we did kind of leading into the 23 bond is what led to identifying and obviously we know that those are our oldest buildings, so we know that there are some things that need to be addressed. But we've typically done a combination of between myself and our construction project manager, or bringing in an outside firm. I think for the 2018 bond, we actually hired an architectural firm to do some of that work. Recently, we've worked with TASB. We worked with them for about the past 2 or 3 years on some facility assessments, and so they recently did facility assessments at Rooster Springs and Dripping Springs High School, because those are the next. Rooster Springs, you don't think of it as an older building, but I think last year it celebrated its 15th year, and so over the next 3 to 5 years, we're in that kind of 20-year window where you need to start replacing major systems, and similarly with Dripping Springs High School.
Okay, so when we talk about bonds, first of all, we have several committees that impact bonds and so the first is the Bond Oversight Committee. This is a committee that provides oversight over outstanding bonds, and I believe, Ken, you're on that committee. So it's a 9-member committee with 2 alternates. We restarted that in December of '23, and that committee meets quarterly. One of the changes with that committee, it was initially established for the 2018 bonds, and it specifically stated 2018. Now that those bonds are mostly expended, we have the 23 bonds, and we know we'll have bonds sooner than we have in the past, then that committee is just going to oversee all outstanding bonds and not be tied to a specific election. So that committee actually meets again this Thursday. We also have currently going on the Long Range Facility Planning Committee. This is a committee of about 64 members, community, staff. They are studying what are our facility needs for the next 10 years. So this past meeting, we looked at our demographic numbers and when do we need to bring new campuses online. So they're looking at determining the timing of new campuses, which new campuses, do we need a middle school, do we need an elementary? We know we're working on high school already. They're also looking at renovation and remodel needs for existing facilities. And that committee will make a recommendation to the board in May, and then the board will determine whether or not to take that information and turn that into a bond steering committee. So here's some program history on bonds in the district. You'll notice that they have grown in size. That's a function of not only additional projects, but inflation. So going back to 1996, we had about $25 million for high school improvements and a new elementary school. Then in 2005, nearly $29 million. That was intermediate expansion, another elementary improvements in land. 2007, $96 million. That's where we converted the middle school to the high school and vice versa, and some money for land. 2014, that was the first bond I participated in with the district, $92 million. Those are the dollars that were used to build the Sycamore complex, add the new stadium and field house, built the baseball, softball, added a technology data center, other technology upgrades, and some maintenance and renovation. So you can see the scope of the bond programs has gotten larger as we've grown as a district and we've added new facilities. Then in 2018, $132 million. That was expanding the J wing at the high school. It added Cypress Springs Elementary, elementary number 5. It relocated Walnut Springs to its current location, made those transportation building improvements that we saw previously, and then some campus renovations, technology, and land. You'll see a common theme. We've got land, 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 land. That's always, seems to always be in a bond. And then most recently, last May, almost a year ago, nearly $224 million to add elementary 6, expand the Sycamore Middle School, design for not only high school number 2 that we're working on right now, but design money for middle school 3 and elementary school number 7. Lots of security upgrades, some ADA upgrades, and then the campus renovations. So this campus, DSMS, some major renovations. We have money for buses and kitchen equipment, IT, and portables in that bond. So we're going to look at that in more detail. So going back to 1996, this is a history of the district's bonds. And then just to remind you, our total tax rate is what you see on your tax statement. But when the dollars come to the district, we're responsible for keeping those separated. So remember, the larger portion of the tax rate is for operations. That's what funds our day-to-day operating costs, all of the salaries in the district, transportation, utilities, all of the programming. The debt service side of the tax rate, so shown here, the bucket is a little smaller because it is the smaller portion of the total tax rate. Those dollars can only be used to pay the principal and interest for those bonds that are approved. So all of these bond elections had to go to voters. The voters had to say yes. And then we levy a tax rate needed to pay those bonds. So just a reminder there of where the money comes from. And then our tax rate history, we're at $1.1075. That's a 40-something cent decrease since 2018. And so you can see it's the M&O rate, the operations rate, that has been declining. And the INS rate has stayed stable since 2016. So the 35 cents on INS has been enough to service all of the outstanding bonds, and that's a function of property value growth. So diving into the 23 bond funds. So again, that was in May, $223.7 million. We talked about the new bond advisory committee that is overseeing these bonds. In November of last year, we issued $100 million of that authorization. And that was based on the amount of cash flow we thought we needed for about 18 months. Cash flow is never used as fast as the contractors will tell you they're going to. And so the next bond sale will depend on how fast we go through that $100 million, and we need more of the 223 to fund the projects. Several projects are underway, and before we get into those, I want to show you the district's website. On the bond program. So on the district's website, under community, you'll find 2023 bond. And down here are all of the projects under the bond. So if we look at elementary number 6, you'll see over here on the right, key information. So how many students that facility is going to accommodate, what the budget is, the location, the architect, which is Fluger, and then the CMAR is American Constructors. And so a summary of the timeline here. So we're looking at a spring groundbreaking, so any day now. And then some more materials on this page. One I particularly like is this construction schedule. And so you'll see this for every project. And so it's laid out where we're at, what the status is. So this was last updated in January. So here we are in March. So we're estimating a groundbreaking in April and construction beginning hopefully closer to the beginning of May than the end of May. But then you can see when the board approved design, when they approved GOPs, et cetera. And so this document exists for nearly every bond project under the 23 bond. So when you're at home and you're curious about what is going on with the bonds, you can come to this page, and here's one for the high school 2 design. Same thing will tell you the schedule and where we're at. And so we're trying to update this frequently, so that's why we have the updated date on there, but just to give you an idea of where you can find things. Okay, so this is a recap of everything that's going on. So elementary 6, yes, is in progress, construction to begin soon. The expansion of Sycamore is in progress, it's in construction. If you go over there, it's changing daily. I went over the other day and the courtyard is completely demolished, so fun stuff. High school 2, we just met last night on the visioning for that campus. The 18-plus new facility, that has not started. We are working with a realtor to determine land and whether or not this is a new build or a renovation of an existing facility. We have $15 million in this bond program for land. We have $4 million and some change in the 2018 bond slated for land that hasn't been spent. And then you can see this campus, life cycle renovations, nearly $19 million worth. $38 million at DSMS, and then some life cycle replacement at the high school, which is not started yet. These 2 campuses, DSE and DSMS, you're going to see on a phasing chart. That's going to take at least 2 summers. The scope of work is just too much to complete in 1 summer.
Sorry, so the plan is construction through the summer, stop for the school year, and then restart.
Because when you look at what we're doing, you don't want us tearing out windows when classes going on, and so you'll see that on the tour.
So there's not a portable program, nothing like that? Is this?
No.
Because they're so expensive.
Yeah. So a couple of little remodels to the CL&I at this campus in Rooster. We have upgraded sound and lighting at pretty much all campuses. We did update the sound system in this campus as a prototype, and it works well, so we're going to repeat that. Just some little maintenance stuff here. Campus security, like I said, a lot of money here for renovations. For this campus and DSMS, it's part of the overall scope of the renovations, and the campus security upgrades will be part of the Sycamore complex addition to the middle school side, some ADA updates. Buses, we've ordered some buses. Buses take about 12 to 18 months to be received, so we've placed some orders for that. We do have money in this bond program for portables, some kitchen equipment, and then technology infrastructure. So that wraps up everything. I'm going to turn it back over to Clint to talk about projects in depth.
Right. So, yeah, I'll go into a little more detail on especially the projects that have started construction or about to start construction, or these major renovation projects that will start this summer. And so for elementary, school number 6, which is again in the Headwaters development, it's kind of on the kind of far western boundary of that development. This road, there's the amenity center is kind of way back here, and then you take the roundabout from just past the amenity center, and you come down to the west, and there's another internal roundabout in the neighborhood, and then this road, which is Mira Vista Drive, is the road that the school will be located off of. Again, the architect for this project is Pfluger. We brought them on board back in October of 2022 to start early design work. The CMAR contractor is American Constructors. They've been on board since last summer. And then just to give you an idea of, each of these, where it says schematic design approved, design development approved, guaranteed maximum price 1 or 2, those are benchmarks when we're taking that project to the board for specific approval. And so we've gone through all the way through the construction documents, phase. That was approved by the board last month. We approved an early GMP for early site work and long lead time items, like some of the HVAC equipment, electrical equipment, elevator, some of that stuff is still way out in terms of, 40 weeks for some air conditioning and electrical equipment. So the board approved that early GMP back in December to allow the contractor to start procuring some of those long lead time
Can I
items.
interrupt here? So this came up last night. You might be wondering if construction's not starting till May, why the contractor was approved in June. We use a CMAR model, construction manager at risk. That model works best when you bring the person that's going to actually build the campus on board with the architect so that they can sit during the design and talk about, well, if you use this kind of wall system, it's more expensive or less expensive. And so the contractor works alongside the architect through the design so that we get the best value for that building. So even though they're not turning dirt yet, they're behind the scenes actually working.
That's a very good point. And then, as we mentioned a couple of slides ago, we anticipate construction starting here in the next couple of months, certainly with some of the site clearing and site work. And so this is the site, almost 65 acres. There is a lot of topography. It's not nearly as flat as it looks on the screen. A lot of topography. And so we are strategically locating the elementary school kind of like we did at the Darden Hill site. So the elementary school will be back at the back of the site. Gives you lots of stacking space for pickup and drop off, and also allows us to the other kind of most buildable areas. This area kind of more in the middle, and so this would be where future facilities could be constructed on that site.
So it's not really a walking campus. It's
Um,
like a neighborhood school like Rooster. It's more have to drive to.
Right. I think that, I think there may be some biking and that, but yeah, this is a pretty good walk from the front of the.
Like Cypress
Yeah.
Park.
Yeah. And then just to give you an idea of the floor plan, got kind of all of your front entry. You'll see some more renderings to give you a better idea. The front entry here with your administration and CLNI, gym and cafeteria kind of in the heart of the building with your classroom pods off to either side. This is actually the entire ground floor, and then because of the topography on this site, I'll show you on the next slide, this pod, there's a pod actually on the 0 floor or below that ground floor. So there's that. That actually would be your 4th and 5th grade pod will be down on the recessed level 0 as it is. Exterior rendering of the kind of off to the side of the front entrance. This is kind of that heart of where I tell you if you're coming in the main entry through the secure vestibule, kind of heart of the school, pods to either direction, and then if you kept going forward would be where your cafeteria and gymnasiums would be. Rendering of the CLNI. The rendering of one of the classroom pods and the collaboration area, and so a lot of room for pull out for classrooms to be pulled out in this area. I think that there's an area like over here where like for science pull out like science experiments and things like that can happen. Any questions on the elementary before we move on to the Sycamore expansion?
Just to point out that Elementary 6 has been designed to be a prototype for elementary campuses going forward, so we'll adapt it to the site, but the concept of the center hub and the classroom wings is a new prototype design.
What was the capacity for this again?
850, and it's around 115,000 square feet. Sycamore expansion, Architect on that project is DOK. Again, same process in terms of the CMAR. Architect was brought on about a year ago. Bartlett Cock is the construction manager at risk. Brought them on early last summer to be involved and help with the pre-construction and cost estimating during design. Guaranteed maximum price one for long lead time items. The site work was approved in December. We actually, as some of y'all probably know that visit that site, we changed the traffic pattern over the Christmas break, and so that was really the kickoff of that construction was some restriping work on Sawyer Ranch, and then changing the traffic pattern, which so far has worked out really well. Construction documents were approved in January. The GMP 2 and the final total GMP was approved last month, and construction has started primarily with the site work and the early demolition work, make room and prepare the site for where that main addition is going to go. And so, just to give you an idea, right, this is all of the existing campus. The main additions are here, kind of going out off of the existing middle school classroom pod areas, small cafeteria expansion, and then connecting back over here with some CTE and elective spaces, a new larger dance room. And then one of the challenges of this school, if you've been there, is currently you've got a kind of a central spine that takes you from the front of the school to the central spine. I got one large main hallway from the front entrance of the middle school to the back, and so it leads to a lot of congestion in a school that was designed for 850 that's now at over 1,000 students. And so one of the things that this accomplishes is we've got kind of an elevated walkway here that then connects through the new academic expansion, and then allows for a secondary secondary corridor, secondary way to traverse from one part of the building to the other. So that's actually one of the things that the campus administration is most excited about.
And Clint, with that GMP2, we are within budget.
Yes, we are. We are just within, and that was one of the things, because we hadn't bid out a project of this scope in a few years, and obviously the last couple of years with construction inflation has just been, not to overuse the term unprecedented, but unprecedented. So this was the first major project in the new bond that we bid out, and so to have it come in at and just under budget, and with the ability to include some of the alternates that we had priced, was something that I think the district and obviously the design team and our the whole team was a little bit nervous about, because we hadn't priced something out that large, but to have it come in under budget was certainly a welcome.
So I was just curious, so then this is middle school, elementary school combined,
Yes.
but the new elementary school is just elementary school. So is the strategy going forward to not do this combined, or is it still sort of as need, trying to figure it out?
I think somewhat as needed. So that school, Sycamore was all built at the same time.
Yeah.
So from a construction standpoint, it could do that. If you're going to do it, building it all at the same time certainly makes sense. There are some advantages to having it combined. There's also some challenges. But I would say that, like on the Headwater site, right, it is large enough for the elementary and then also a middle school. So you may see in the future where we have a middle school and an elementary on the same site, where there's eaves for
Like Walnut and
Right.
Children's Street Middle,
Exactly.
but it's separate,
Yeah.
as opposed to the same building, same.
Right.
So we're not planning to do that likely.
I hate to say never, but probably, yeah, just kind of based on the situation and how the timing has to work out just right, where you need that elementary and that middle school in that location at the same time.
Well, yeah, same location but separate buildings.
Yes.
But not the
not
The
to
Sycamore
combine all
site
into
was,
one.
is relatively small land-wise, and
Yeah.
it was built to us as like, we can share cafeteria staff, we can share other things, so like the main court of the middle, they share, but the schools are separate on the campus, you haven't been there.
Yeah, no, I'm not criticizing one or the other, I'm
Yeah,
just trying
but
to,
one of the reasons it was, or that site was so small,
yeah.
yeah, and it's still too small.
And so this just,
Very nice.
that gives you an idea of the, what the classroom addition looks like. And so these are the existing, the light blue is the existing classrooms, the darker blue and the green are classrooms that will be added, and then new science rooms, and then the CTE and elective spaces, and then the advanced space. And then this, you'll see it on one of the renderings, I think, but this is the new student entrance, the new primary student entrance to the school. And then this is just the upper level of that. And so again, the new classrooms, as it pushes out, 2 new science labs on the upper level, and then connects over to a couple of additional CTE spaces. So what that allows us to do in total, it's about 45,000 square feet of additional space, and allows us to increase that capacity from 850 to 1200. Just kind of a bird's eye view of what that looks like. Everything dark gray is the existing building. Everything in white with the white roof is the new addition. So you see the new classroom areas here. Here's that kind of elevated corridor that provides the secondary ability to traverse the campus. The new kind of connecting over to the new CTE and elective spaces, and then back here at the very back, this is the pop out for so adding the additional space in the cafeteria, but then also extending to maintain the covered outdoor seating area. And then this is the, as I mentioned, so this will be now the new primary student pickup and drop off point there. And another one of kind of the key points of this is we've got this. Right now, was that open courtyard area. This allows us to provide an internal secured courtyard that can be used throughout the day. Just another rendering kind of from up the hill, looking down, and you can see that elevated corridor and the student drop off. Any other questions on the Sycamore expansion? That is under construction, and from today, if everything goes according to plan, about 12 months, and so it should be getting really close to a substantial completion by this time next year. And then just to kind of touch on some of the other projects, the campus security updates, this is district-wide. I think we've already mentioned the DSE, DSMS. Those updates will happen as part of the major renovation starting this summer, and then they'll be incorporated into the Sycamore Elementary, Sycamore Middle School expansion project. That includes a camera refresh district-wide, fencing. I think one of the first campuses that we're going to do fencing is going to be here at DSE, and then door and badge, updated door and badge access systems, and then again, secure vestibules at each campus. The high school 2 project, we are currently in early design on that. What a lot of architects call the design charrette, BLK calls it their launch phase, and so last night we had our launch meeting number 2. We have one more launch meeting next month, and then you can see kind of as it goes out, we should be presenting a schematic design this summer, and then moving forward, you can see as we continue through design development and construction documents, and then this launch is a committee of around 60 folks. This PAT is what they call a project advisory team, and so that's kind of a smaller group of that larger committee that will kind of stay on board and will provide updates to them throughout the rest of the design and construction process.
So what is the plan for going on construction of that?
So, I don't know,
We've been saying May of 25. Like what year are we in?
Yeah.
25, so
Yeah.
next May.
in order to open it, because a high school, it's a year and a half design, and then 2.5 years construction. Our ability to open that in the around 27, 28 school year would require us to go back out for those construction dollars. And have any chance of completing that construction and opening it when we need to open it, we'd be looking at most likely May of next year. Moving on to the Drifting Springs Elementary and Drifting Springs Middle School renovations, and so there's a lot of detail here, but primarily these are major, like the HVAC systems, full replacement on the HVAC. Electrical, a lot of the electrical is the original from the mid '80s, and so we're replacing like the main switch gear and a lot of the sub panels. And when you're going in and doing the major HVAC work, is also when it makes sense to replace all of the like fluorescent lighting to LED lighting, and so doing all of that work at the same time, and then replacing a lot of the plumbing systems, updating the fire protection system to ensure that it meets current NFPA standards, and then window replacements. The windows throughout this building are single pane operable windows, and so replacing those with double pane, energy efficient and more secure windows. Construction of a fire lane, and then renovation of the existing CL&I to provide a maker space that's more consistent with like what you see at either a Sycamore or Cypress Springs or the New Walnut. And then along with that, all the finishes, like all the wall finishes, and we'll see some of this as we're walking the building. Replacing all the wall finishes, replacing the ceiling, replacing the lighting. This VCT flooring, it's operable, it still works, but it's very labor intensive. It takes a lot of, it has to be stripped and waxed every summer. The custodial crews at these campuses that have VCT flooring essentially spend the entire summer stripping and waxing that floor, and so replacing all of that VCT flooring. So it's labor intensive. Maybe it's cheaper to put in initially, but the annual maintenance cost on this is about $1 a square foot. So the difference in this type of flooring versus a resilient flooring that doesn't have the labor intensive maintenance pays for itself in 3 to 4 years. And then in terms of phasing, and we can talk through this as we do the tour, everything that's kind of in the light blue is going to be ground zero for construction this coming summer. And so the admin and CL&I renovations, HVAC, all the electrical floor finishes is all happening. This is the front of the building. You've got your cafeteria, your CL&I. We're in this room right here, I believe, and so all of this is getting basically all the HVAC, electrical, and new finishes this coming summer. The front wings. One of the things that we had to do here last year is the old cast iron piping was starting to really cause us some problems in certain parts of the building. So we actually did that work. And this, if you walk down the hallways in this building, this hallway right out here, in the middle of last summer, there was like a 6-foot trench down the middle of it. So we did all that really messy, dirty work in this part of the building last summer. That allows us to come back in and do all the HVAC, electrical, and finishes. This coming summer, we'll come back and do that messy plumbing work in that part of the building. this summer as well, which then we would come back and do the remainder of that HVAC and finish work in the following summer. So these are 2 summer projects, and it's a lot of work. Our summers now are 50 to 60 days, right? We have about 60 work days, even if you factor in them working on some weekends. And so that work will start literally the day that school lets out, and it'll continue right up until the kids come back in August. Okay. We'll update all the finishes. I think I've already talked through all that. Just some renderings of what the new hallways will look like. We'll add tile a lot more. This is a lot more durable than just sheetrock and paint. We can paint the hallways every summer, but they would need to be repainted by the following year, just with the wear and tear. So what the new hallways will look like. A new classroom, again, repainting the walls, new resilient flooring, new ceiling lighting, HVAC. Updating the cafeteria, new flooring, kind of giving it some, it's just all big one kind of low ceiling, and so kind of breaking that up with some pops of color in the cafeteria. Moving on to the middle school.
So before we move on, so I've been a parent for this school for the last 6 years. Mr. Nick's probably probably known it. So the HVAC system has been one that, since we've been a part of it, has been challenging. And we know from the research, that's probably the one thing a facility can do to improve learning is climate control, not too hot, not too cold. Now, it's fantastic that we're getting this done. We were a little stressed, that was a part of the bond, that if the bond didn't go through, that this wasn't going to get done. And so for us, okay, great, we're getting this done here, but in the future, I mean, what is the strategy for making sure that we don't have these issues? I mean, like I said, for years, it's been challenging here, just from a temperature control standpoint, and waiting for finally to get something done in an overhaul. Like, for other facilities, other schools, like, how are you guys accounting for that? How are you guys strategizing that?
So that's part of that facility assessment process, and it'll be part of, especially as a growing district, and as we're adding new facilities, each new bond, we're also going to have facilities that are approaching that age, so that will just become part of the normal cycle of each bond, is including, like this one's Dripping Springs Elementary, Dripping Springs Middle School. The next bond would include Rooster Springs and the high school, and so that would just be kind of part of the ongoing, kind of 10-year facilities plan to include those major renovations on those aging facilities.
And it has to be tied into a bond, there's no other way.
There's no way.
Yeah.
I can fix all the individual units on a daily basis that may go down with our kind of our general operating budget, but the ability to go in and replace 60 to 70 air conditioning units, the control system that goes along with that, instead of being a few $1,000s to maybe $10,000 on an individual unit, now you're talking millions of dollars to replace the entire system.
And by law, large capital projects have to be paid by bonds.
No, we could, if we had the money, we could do it, we just don't have the funds to
We just do
operate.
it as teachers.
And as a recapture district, you want to put most of those capital improvements in a bond, because you're not paying recapture on those dollars.
And then with this particular bond, it was delayed due to the pandemic, correct? Like this 2023 bond should have happened a year,
Probably.
ideally a year earlier, but that whole long-range planning process got interrupted. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say.
So it shouldn't have gotten, I mean, I know 1 year doesn't seem to make a big difference, but it seemed to be a breaking point for climate control in this building.
But is there any prioritizing, because I'm also the parent from this campus, and this campus is one of the oldest, and I can hear the pain here, because it's, like the teachers and staff are suffering from this temperature, going up and down, and kids getting sick and all of that. So, let's say, I hear that we are working on the overall plan, but are we really prioritizing the campus like this one, where, the problems, the levels are a little bit different?
Yes.
Like going first versus,
Right.
like going.
No, absolutely, which is, and that's exactly why we prioritized this campus and Dripping Springs Middle School, because they were the two with the oldest systems, and the two that we have the most issues with. Yeah, so.
Right.
Very similar scope at the middle school, replacing the majority of the HVAC equipment, electrical systems, plumbing fixtures, updating the fixtures in the restrooms, just some examples of the HVAC. Some of these electrical panels that, because of how old they are, that, the replacement parts or the ability to add breakers or add capacity to those, and so those have to be replaced just because the companies that manufacture them don't support those panels anymore. Fire protection, similarly, testing and ensuring that the fire protection system is up to date with current NFPA requirements. And then similarly on the phasing, we're going to, from an HVAC and electric, we're going to really hit these kind of central core academic areas this coming summer with all the HVAC, and then finish work as well, and then finish work in the A wing, and then the D and E wings. That work will be completed next summer. So again, 2-year project. And then just an idea of some of the existing finishes. This is what a corridor will look like after the renovations are completed. Updating what the cafeteria looks like. This is that if you've been in the kind of the foyer area between the cafeteria and the competition gym at Richmond Middle School, what that space will look like once this is completed, and then next steps.
So then what? So Clint's team has a lot of work this summer, so managing not only the construction of Elementary 6, and then very soon we'll be hiring principal and staff for that campus, ordering furniture, getting ready to open that for 25-26 school year, managing construction on an active campus at Sycamore Middle School. So you can imagine that brings its own nuances because you do have students on that campus during construction. These 2 campus renovations, that's a major construction monitoring project this summer. Continuing the design of High School 2, begin roofing repairs at the high school. As I mentioned, we're working with a real estate broker to procure land for future school sites. We need to determine our solution for an 18+ facility, and then phasing in the safety and security upgrades and continuing to purchase replacement kitchen equipment. So we've got a few very busy summers coming up. I just want to remind you of our next we have 2 Taxpayer Tuesday sessions left this school year. In April, we'll be at Cypress looking at demographics and growth. And then in May, we'll be at Walnut Springs talking about budgeting for all those that are interested in that. So we're going to break and take a tour. We have about 30 minutes to tour this campus and look at the specific projects that will be underway for this campus this summer. And Clint, you're going to lead that. Where are we starting?
I guess we could